Teen shouts echo into abandoned ruins. Something else calls back. Feeling that he needed to take a break from the built-up city he was always exposed to, Isaac Washington Watts planned a day to be surrounded by nature, and he took his girlfriend Emily. The couple packed what they needed and left the town and headed for the closest forest. As the 19-year-olds put their car in the park, they were unaware what was waiting for them. The two lovebirds were holding hands walking on the trail, but suddenly they noticed something in the distance. They both squinted their eyes but couldn't tell what it was. That's when they decided to take a closer look. They heard crows chirp above their heads as they got closer to the dense forest where it got much darker. They could smell pet Riker, which made them even more uneasy. As they made their way into the dark, they noticed some old rubble. On closer inspection, it was actually an old derelict building. Whoever lived in this building left in a hurry. They could see a radio and lots of furniture from where they were standing. Who would have left in such a hurry? And why? Isaac and Emily loved the idea of adventuring. And now, as they were presented with an opportunity like this, they had to explore. It was eerily quiet inside, and they noticed that all the rooms were covered in mold. Isaac spontaneously decided that it would be funny to prank his girlfriend. He couldn't help but laugh to himself in the darkness. He was going to get her so bad. He told Emily that it would be fun to split up and explore two parts of the building and meet up and tell each other what they had found. Emily took some convincing, but she eventually agreed and walked away. Nobody could have foreseen what happened next. Emily could barely see anything in front of her, so she didn't even notice when Isaac crept away. She kept going down the hallway, thinking Isaac was somewhere behind her. She decided that she no longer liked the idea and called out Isaac's name. After there was no answer, she felt a knot twist in her stomach. She took out her phone and turned on her flashlight, but she couldn't see Isaac anywhere. Stubbing his laughter, Isaac calls out into the abandoned ruins. He braces himself for her screams. Instead, he hears something completely different. It's a deep, hoarse male voice, and it calls back from somewhere in the darkness. The blood drains from Isaac's face as the fright and creepy experience kicks in. His mind then turns to his girlfriend, who's inside all alone. What has he done? Terrified, Isaac stood frozen. It was until a few moments later that he could calm his mind enough to think logically about the situation. Emily made her way out of the building. Hearing the voices from inside, she knew exactly what had happened. Isaac rushed over to make sure she was okay. She hadn't seen anything but heard the voice come from the basement. Just as Emily begs for them to leave, Isaac realizes that he can't. He needs to see what or who that sound was coming from in the basement. His head was telling him to leave, but his heart was saying to stay. But time was running out for Isaac. He had to be quick. He had to find out what that noise was now. Phone torch in hand, Isaac moves slowly forward. He thinks this is the scariest thing he's ever walked himself voluntarily into. Down the hallway, past cobwebs, broken old chairs and cabinets, he reaches the basement stairs. His heart pounds as he begins to descend. The wooden stairs creak under his steps as he calls, "Hello? Is anybody there?" On the floor, propped up against the wall, lay an old man who looked on the verge of death. His face was filthy and his clothes were ragged and ripped. As Isaac approaches, he begs for water. Isaac gives him a water bottle and let the strange man take his fill, then prepares for heavy lifting. Realizing the old man can't walk, Isaac helps him up the stairs and out of the building. They greet Emily, nervously waiting outside, pacing back and forth. As she spots him, she immediately calls the ambulance and the police. As they wait for help, they learn more about this stranger and how he ended up there. The man was 51-year-old James Thompson. Thompson had been hiking through a forest a month ago when he fell and broke his leg. With only enough strength to reach the abandoned building for shelter, he waited and called for help, but no passerby had previously heard him. His shelter was too secluded, resulting in an extremely dangerous situation where no one could find him. Isaac and Emily waited with Thompson until the medics arrived. Thompson was brought straight to the hospital for treatment. If Isaac had not kept his wits and ventured into the eerie building, or had even done so a month later, Thompson would not have made it. Isaac and Emily went into the woods for fun and returned saving a life. Who else can say that?